Yes, you are audible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, colleagues. Thank you for availing yourselves for this webinar this morning. Thank you for taking your time. As Atlehan mentioned, my name is Nhlanhla Bolton, and I'll be facilitating the first session. So the title is clear as you've entered. The theme we're having today is Africa's Next Generation, a Pan-African Student Leadership for to the particularly diving into with our guests is the role of education in advancing Pan-Africanism. And with me today in helping me, understand, as well as all of us who are here today, understand these concepts is we have Mr.
We've lost you then, Nhlanhla. Are you still there? I think he's having network issues, or is it on my side? Jessica, please do confirm if you are able to hear Nhlanhla, or is he also?
No, I think he's having technical issues because his video even froze.
All right, cool. I think let's just give him a sec and he'll be back.
Who is also a social work graduate, youth advocate, community leader, who also volunteers.
Sorry, Nhlanhla, we had lost you for a moment while you were still introducing yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
So as I said, today I will be with my guests. And firstly, we have Koena Mpakonyane, who is a social work graduate, youth advocate, as well as a community leader. She also volunteers with UNESCO desk in Lesotho. We also, and she is a country director of the AUSP in Lesotho. We also have Ulrich Mukoko, who is a country director in the Congo. He holds dual master's degree in English literature and conferencing interpreting. He's also a managing director of Translation Lab Congo and a founder of Ulrich Smart Learning, as well as a vice president of BK, an NGO championing education and youth leadership across the African continent. And thirdly, we have Enoch Soko, who is a CEO and founder of Enoch Soko Tutoring Services. He served as a president of the Golden Key at UJ chapter. He also served as a chairperson at UJ chapter for the ASABA. He is also an ambassador to their world. So these are the guests that we have today who will be helping us at least understand as to how can we transition, or how can we facilitate, the advancement of Pan-Africanism through education. So before I proceed with engaging with my guests, just some housewarming rules. So for any questions that you might have, please just keep them or write them in the comment section so that our colleagues will keep those questions. And then later on at the end of the session that our guests will be sharing, then we can ask those questions. So without any further ado, I will start with the burning question, and I'll direct this first question to Mr. Ulrich, the country director from Congo. And the first question will be how do educational systems and curricula across the African continent influence leadership development, innovation, and social political awareness? So can you at least help us with that, Mr. Mboko?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Valentine, for this question, and thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, where you are located this morning. I know that it's in my country, it's still very early in the morning in the Republic of Congo. Well, as far as this question, if I got it well, how can education shape development and leadership in across the country? I mean, the continent in Africa. Well, first and foremost, what we need to know is that education is key to everything. And you from South Africa, you better know it's because we have this champion, Mandela, who just say that development is the best weapon that we can use to help a country to be developed. And I think that through education, through, let me say, uh, good curriculums across Africa, we can just promote this philosophy of Pan-Africanism. So what is, for example, Pan-Africanism? We all know it's this belief of political and economic unity of Africans living together for the same purpose, for the same vision. And if our governments can just try and think of modeling a system of education that is going to take into consideration the realities of Africans and taking into consideration all the history of Africa from colonizations, from slaveries, and so on and so forth, and try to shape a system that we know we are under the bondage of Westerns. The Westerners often have the influence on us. And we Africans, we need to get rid from this neo-colonialism that has just been influencing us and preventing us from going forward. Today, we see that there are many things in our educational systems. They are still bound in the colonial educational systems. You see that there are things that we are still learning that those things are no longer important in our time. But given that we just get a kind of a legacy from our uh, colonial countries, metropoles, what we understand is that they do not align with the current vision of Africa. And this vision, for example, when we see the African Union vision, that of the Africa we want by 2044, what is that we are training people that are not fit for the market. We are training people for some areas that are no longer update, but we still see people going to school for those field of studies. But we need our government, our decision makers to try to align our educational systems with our aspiration. We have the African Union, for example. I am a former scholar of the African Union because I was awarded a scholarship to go and study to the Pan-African University. And what we notice is that the African Union is working tirelessly in order to shape the leaders of tomorrow, to give them what it takes for the Africa that we expect tomorrow by teaching us first the history of Africa, because we need to know who we are, where we are coming from, and where we are going. And if we need to be developed, we need to have that in mind. And by having this in mind, we from the African Union, I mean, as Pan-African Union students and scholar, I am aware that everything that I do, I have the full responsibility of the development of my continent. And I think this is first the responsibility of our government and also of the youth, because we know that today po- politicians, they have their ambitions, they have goals, And once they reach uh, the office, they no longer do what they promise us during elections. So what should we do now? We need to accompany those people. That's why you will see that we, for example, youth of Africa, we are joining things like civil society organization, creating NGOs that are going to foster, are going to champion education. That's why, for example, during your introduction, you just say that I am the vice president of an NGO in the field of education, and we are trying to do our best with the little means that we have to try to support the government of our country first, and later on see how we could spread it through the continent so that we can just uphold this initiative that will help us to reach development in our mother continent that is Africa. So in a nutshell, our government needs to, let me say, to model the programs of our education according to the current aspiration and vision of Africa if we need to see change. So I will leave the floor to Mr. Valentine for for the time being. If there are any further questions, maybe I will take them, and that is it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just maybe a follow-up, because you mentioned quite some insightful points, and before I move on to the next speaker. So I would like to know as to what was the driving force behind you taking such initiatives, and I would imagine you're not working in isolation. You're working with a team of individuals on your side of the continent, and particularly because you obviously have been aware of some of the current challenges that are plaguing Africa, as you've rightfully mentioned. So now, because now the reason why I'm asking this question is because I know that there might be another individual within the southern region or the eastern or the western or the northern sphere of Africa who might also be seeing the same challenges, the same the consistencies that have been playing out throughout the past. But then now, what was your driving force to say, you know what, let me take part in such initiatives so that even if it's 1% of a change, but at least it will be meaningful going forward. So as to a listener today, they might take that motivation or encouragement that you will be then sharing with us, so that they might start something for themselves. So, what was the driving force behind that?
Thank you once more for this wonderful question. Well, for the for starters, the idea of creating our NGO did not come from me, but it came from our president, our chair, who is not in Africa right now, is in the USA. So I am just accompanying the vision of the president. And what just prompted us to put in place this NGO is that we noticed that many children in our country, and mostly in remote areas, they don't have access to education. Maybe because they lack necessary tools that will enable them to go to school. And then we just made a decision that every year we need to locate a given remote village where we know that students or children don't have access to school because they are lacking necessary funds to go to school. We will support them. We give them necessary tools that will enable them to go back to school. And this is why we just started our NGO, and we have been working with our team. And currently, you will see, for example, our country is a French-speaking country. So the English I'm speaking, it's because first I am an English teacher, and also I am in the field of education. So you see that this align with everything that I do because I am an English teacher trained at the teacher training college. So I know the challenges that student face. You will see that in Congo, we have some schools where in one classroom, you have more than 500 students. and try to understand how can a student get it well in a classroom where we have 500 students. So it just, we will say, a pen in an egg for a student to wake up and go to school. This is in great cities. And try to imagine in remote areas. It means that those people far away, they don't even have access. So we are working so that we may build good project strategies that will enable us to help those people who can't have access to education. And I think that from Africa, from any country, we as the youth, as the aspiration, one of the aspiration of the African Union is that a continent that is led by Africans and young Africans, because we, the youth, we are key to the development of Africa. That's why we see that our continent is working on this thing of equipping the African youth with necessary skills. And the year 2024 was the year dedicated to education. And if you followed it on medias, you will see that the African Union theme of 2024 year was focused on education. And you will see that as part of African Union programs, I know that it's not what we are expecting, but at least they have started something that other leaders need now to come and uphold. And let me just grasp this opportunity. Maybe we may have leaders from some countries here. The African Union only works with countries. And if countries do not support or fund the African Union, it will be difficult for them to try to implement some project that have just put in place. And this is what we are seeing, that at least 60 or 70% of the African Union financing comes from Western countries. And how do you think that we Africans, being financed by Europeans, Americans, we could draft programs or curricula that will help us to get rid from the domination, or colonialism, what we are now calling neo-colonialism. So it will be difficult. So you as leaders from where you are, please let's work hand in glove so that we know that when we are helping our continent, we are doing what it takes, like financing good project that will help the Africa to go forward. So I think this is what I could say to this question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And now to the country director in Lesotho, I think this what the reflections from Mr. Mukoko are very insightful, because now the question that I would like to ask Mrs. Goya is, how can now the youth be more encouraged, firstly, in shaping the education to reflect, the perspectives of the realities within their respective countries, or or in the African continent, because as we heard from Mr. Mukoko, that firstly there is an existential issue of access to education, and secondly, that education, when it is accessed, sometimes it is not of quality, or sometimes it is influenced by parties outside the African continent. Because it also reminds me of a time when I was in high school, and in history, I think we would always be learning about the wars that were happening in Europe. And we would always ask, like, why are we not being informed about, the wars, or the history of the, African continent? So it goes to the question that I would like to pose to you, as to how can now the youth be more engaged in this participation? Like, what can we do to better shape, the education in a more Pan-African perspective, not only for the next few years, but for decades to come? Thank you. Mrs.
Oh,
Goyena.
yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Valtine, for that question. I feel
Yes.
like Mr. Mokoko has hit most of the points like you're saying. He's mentioned a lot of crisis
Yes.
in education that we're facing as Africa in general, not just certain countries, but all of Africa. And I think the first thing that needs to be done is for youth to demand access. We can't be given access. We know this. The student unions, we have youth councils, I'm sure in most of the African countries. But unless as student unions and as youth councils, we demand a space to be there, to be able to review curricula, then I think nothing will change. We have to be there because we are living the realities of the said inadequate education system. We are here, we have degrees. Some of us, majority of us, are not even working because the education that we got is not aligning with the job market that is currently in Africa. So we have to be with ministries of education. We have to be in those spaces, be with them, give them advice on what needs to change and how it needs to change. Who needs to deliver this education that we're talking about and how it needs to be accessed, right? Also, we need to align, like Mr. Makoko said, it needs to align with what Agenda 2063 says, what are our aspirations for the future? So we can't just be having multiple programs that are being funded by the government that are not going to lead to anything happening in Africa, right? If we're having degrees in social work, for example, like I have a degree in social work, currently the market is not looking at degrees in social work. Even in Africa, Africa is looking at advancing entrepreneurship and technology. Those are things that need to be focused on as we continue. And these are things we need to be telling people who are in government, right? Because they're the ones in the ministries. We just need to demand a space to be with them, demand on an audience to tell them, no, we need this and this and that and that. And if we have this, then we're going to have a brighter future, obviously. And I feel like we also need to be uh, having supporting think tanks. You know, as youth, we have councils, we have political parties also. We just have also organizations, right? Like Mr. Mokoko's one, where we are gathering youth, where we are teaching them certain things, where we're sharing information. I feel like if the government supports just initiatives, then we can go further. If it's not just youth together, but also older people, more advanced people, then they can learn. You know, we're not just going to go forward with people believing what they were taught or what they know from back then. We need them to come here now. We need them to learn the realities of Africa. We need them to know that what they're doing is not working for us at the moment. So if youth demand a seat, they demand an audience, I feel like we could go a long way as Africa. Thank you very much. Any follow-up questions on that?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And I think is so it brings up this notion, which was also reflected on earlier, that part of the existential issues is the phobia of our current leaders whom perceive the youth to be just youth and are not so much capable of holding particular positions whereby we can try and meet these government officials halfway, so much so as they can hear the voices or the cries or the demands of the youth. But I think you touched on an important point there, particularly with respect to the demand aspect. I think, and you also later on, you also touched on this aspect of youth engaging in particular initiatives with the government. So I think it also answers the question, the follow-up question that I wanted to ask from you. But then you've already answered it, because now you've made me ponder on this aspect, that for the listeners particularly, that in the way that we can help reflect or shape the education system to be more aligned to the current circumstances that we are facing. Because taking into account the theme here, it's Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is centered around liberation, more coordinated efforts of independence and interdependence within the African continent. So I think it is also, firstly, the initiative of ourselves to establish such organizations that are particularly driven with such motions and notions, and also to reach out to the government with such initiatives, so much so that we demand a seat where they sit so that we can be also part of the coordinating efforts, because we also touched on an important point of transparency, because most of the time we are just spoon-fed, we're just at the receiving end of everything. So it is about time that we also reflect on the aspect of this transparency. Before I move on to my next speaker, do you have any reflections on any comments on what I've just highlighted?
Yeah, I think you're actually making very great points, like you're saying. Transparency also, like you're saying, is the major point that we need to look at. If the government is not transparent with us, then how are we going to move forward? They need to be able to tell us what is happening so that we can also give them advice. And like you're saying, they keep looking at us as youth or children who have no idea what is happening. But we've grown. We are leaving the realities, like I'm saying, of this inadequate educational system. So they should be able to take our advice and work with it. Also, we the point of demanding is that the government will never come to you. That's one thing we have to learn. That just because you have this bright idea and you're sitting on it, the government isn't going to look and find you. You have to go to them. You have to demand that I have this, and I feel like it would be great. Demand for them to give you space. Always tell them that I am here. Listen to me now. So I feel like those are the kind of reflections that we need to be taking in also as youth, that have a great idea, but also have the courage to go and demand your space to talk about it. Don't just sit on it. Don't just post it on social media and hope that someone from the government or someone from somewhere is going to see it. Go there and actually present your idea. You never know. You might be sitting on something that is great, that is going to actually change your country for the better.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much for those reflections. And to my next guest, Mr. Soko, I think now that we've established the concept of Pan-Africanism and education, the existential issues that we're facing, and the possible contributions that individuals in their respective areas can make in this coordinated effort. I think now the question that I'd like to pose to you is, how can we facilitate cross-border collaboration within institutions in advancing the education and the notion of Pan-Africanism? Because at the end of the day, Pan-Africanism is not only limited to respective individuals in their countries, but it is also a coordinated effort within the African continent, and as well within the diaspora, because we have people living abroad but who also have meaningful contributions within the African continent. So basically, my question is now, how can we have a meaningful cross-border collaboration with various institutions in a more coordinated effort in advancing education that is particularly driven by the notion of Pan-Africanism? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question and also for the opportunity to share. I'm really grateful that I've been given the seat at the table, and now it's my opportunity, just to share from my experience. Just like the previous speakers have stated, there have been so many challenges faced by our education systems. However, it is now about time where we start talking about the solutions that we can bring forward. And one of the solutions, as you have suggested, is cross-border collaborations. And I remember the president of Rwanda was speaking in one of these interviews where he spoke about this exchange program which they had with South Africa, where they would send students to learn in South Africa and they would go back to Rwanda and, have that experience and end up in positions of power, where some of them are serving in the government. And that is one of the success stories where we're learning about, these different collaborations between countries. And these are some of the structures or programs that I would encourage that, we speak more of and we implement more of. And the other part when it comes, to cross-border collaborations, um, leadership programs. So for example, I've been part of different leadership programs. For example, there was an exchange program held in Nigeria where I learned about entrepreneurship. And now we've got the technology, we have all these resources. It is about utilizing what we have at the moment. We always have this notion of Africa being the poorest continent without realizing that actually we have the resources. Trust me, a person from a village might say that I do not have money, but they do have a phone, and you find out that they're posting videos on TikTok. So it is actually utilizing these technology advancements which we have, and also coming up with solutions which will utilize our strengths. And yeah, the other suggestion when it comes, to cross-border collaboration, when it comes to empowering Africa through education is creating civic engagements. For example, the one which the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, created, African Leadership Initiative called YALI. It's these kind of programs which empower young leaders who aim, to transform the future of Africa. And these are some of the programs that, as countries, different countries, they should implement in their countries and also try to, have different exchange programs. For example, I can go to Lesotho and learn about the culture of Lesotho, learn how education, is transforming the lives of young people. And, Lesotho can also send some of the young leaders to learn about how education is transforming the lives of people in Malawi or people in South Africa. And these are some of the programs that I would encourage us, to present forward. And yeah, when it also comes to cross-border collaborations, we've always been told that we are the leaders of tomorrow, we are the future leaders. However, it is about time that, we've been given that platform where we can share our ideas. And also, when I've been given that platform to, share our ideas, we need to make sure that the way we present our solutions, we're accurate. Because when I was speaking to some of, the world leaders in these different forums, they say that some of the challenges that they encounter when it comes, to young leaders is that sometimes we do not cross-check our facts to a point where, we're presenting, solutions or facts or numbers which are not accurate. So for us, to improve our cross-border collaborations, improve our international policies, international dialogues, it comes to, preparations and also having an understanding of what has worked and what hasn't worked when it comes, to these cross-border collaborations. So thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it is so important, this aspect of you've mentioned the civil engagement, also seeking opportunities as well as these exchange programs, because as it sits, I'm from South Africa, but I'm currently under an exchange program, and I'm in Uganda. So, and also the need to use technologies, to also, bridge the gap, because at the end of the day, we are in a better position than our youth counterparts whom were, in the 19th centuries, particularly because at that time, it was only this aspect of, physical letters, or other rudimentary means of getting information across. But I think the advantage and also a curse that we have is technology, because we find that many of times we are so much distracted, by social media, because I for instance, I fall victim sometimes. I find myself, maybe scrolling on social media for hours, and at the same time, I'm holding such an important device that can transmit, communicate such important informations, such as the webinar that we're having today. It is by technology. So I think what I'm eliciting from your response is that number one, we need before we can even approach these individuals in high up positions, particularly when talking about high positions, we're talking about government officials. We're also talking about individuals who have a large stake in mainstream media. Because if they're not willing to give us a voice on their mainstream media platforms, then basically our message falls to no ears, right? So, but I believe what I'm getting from you is that before we can even get to those people's doors, we need to create something for ourselves first and reach them. We reach them with something. And I think, and your point also tethers on, the collaborations or the inputs from our two previous speakers. But I guess now the other question that I would like to ask you, the final question, particularly with respect to, you also mentioned that with individuals from rural spaces, how can such individuals, taking into account this aspect of quality education that is particularly driven on the aspect of Pan-Africanism, which is the collaborative, coordinated efforts of uniting us as Africans and empowering each other. How can an individual in a rural area, of any country within the African continent, how can they feel that they have a voice or they can contribute to something that is happening in the global south or something that is happening in the Eastern Africa? So, like, how can they actually drum up, motivations or efforts that are coordinated in that regard?
That is very, very, very powerful question. And trust me, I've been in these positions where, you come, for example, from a small village and there's no one who's being represented, for example, on TV that you're watching. And it's very challenging for you to feel like you are seen or to feel like you're represented. However, it is our responsibilities, to us who have made it in courts, to say that you have come from a village and now you have access to, higher education and, you have all this experience. It is up to us to go back to, to those places and share with them the experience. And trust me, when you're sharing the experience, your experience, it will empower someone to say, oh, for example, this person came from the village next door, but look at them now. Then they're on TV. Look at them now; they're launching their own companies. So we shouldn't wait for someone from overseas, as one of the guest speakers said, for inspiration, because we have that inspiration. We don't need someone to tell us that the youth of South Africa are unemployed. We know that. So it is really about someone who has walked the journey coming back to us to say, I've been through what you've been through. However, I've made it through resilience, persistence, and always looking out for access to resources. So that would be my approach, to empowering people, from rural areas. And yeah, for example, I'll just use in my case, we realized that excuse me, we realized that students who come, for example, from rural areas in South Africa do not know about access to to higher education. They do not know about scholarship opportunities, bursary opportunities. So we took that upon ourselves to not wait for the government, because the government will not go to these villages to share this kind of information. We took it upon ourselves as Enoch Tutoring Services to go to these high schools to just share about these different opportunities which are out there. And through that, you receive feedback from students saying, I really didn't know about that. I look forward to learning more, to empowering my family through this information that you've given me. So that is my approach to empowering people from the disadvantaged communities.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think for the duration of this session, I think we've been tethering on the same aspect, I think what I'm getting from all the speakers, and this is directed to our listeners, that in as much as we might be aware of challenges that are prevalent in our society and within the continent, but it always comes down to an individual that is taking an initiative, right? Because had our guests not taken the initiative to engage in the various initiatives that they are part of, we wouldn't be having them in this particular session today. And as Soko just mentioned, that in coordinating efforts under the notion of Pan-Africanism, his contribution is to actually going out to communities and capacitating them on available opportunities, as well as what was highlighted by my previous guests. So once again, thank you so much for our guests availing themselves and sharing such insightful information and contributions, to various questions that were posed. I do believe that we might have some questions from our guests. I'm sorry, from our participants. So I will then hand over to my colleague, Jesse, to maybe read out some questions that might be on the comment section. And then, to whomever the question is directed to. And then following that, I'll then hand over to Atlaham. Thank you so much, Jesse.
We do not have any question in the chat box. I'm not sure if people are still going to put their questions in or not.
Well, maybe in the we did highlight that the questions during the interim of the session, they will be taken down or written on the comment section. But maybe if there is no one with a question,
there's a hand up. Sorry, there's a hand.
We can get that question.
I think Thomas, you may unmute and ask your question. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and good morning to our invited guests and everyone. I would just like to ask a question regarding the organization, or how we organize our events, and we do not collaborate effectively with the leadership of the region and all that. How do we go about it? Because I just tend to see these things happening on the group, and I feel like the leadership of the organization is not communicating effectively to its leadership on the ground. Because that's just my question.
So is your question directed at the guests, or is it directed at the AUSP South African chapter colleagues? Because about
the organizers. The organizers.
I think to answer the question, he's asking in terms of the AUSP as a whole and not South Africa. So, Thomas, I think you would have to perhaps email the AUSP as a whole global executive, because for now we are hosting a regional event which is South African based. So, here in Tandla, he was asking.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Wow.
I don't know if there's any other question from the chat or any hand up.
Yeah, question particularly related to our webinar, because I think that is more of an administrative question that he's asking.
Yeah.
But okay. But if there is no question, I wouldn't want to hold our guests any longer. It is a weekend, and they do have other engagements to take part in. But Atlaham, I think I'll hand over to you. And once again, thank you so much for our guests availing themselves today. We would like to see you again in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dantla, for that awesome session. And thank you again to the guest speakers for the meaningful contribution. I think my takeaway here is that we need to, number one, review the curricula. Number two, we need exposure. And I do agree within this aspect of exposure. Look at Ndandla, you are in Uganda currently, you're getting new knowledge, learning, new experiences from different cultures. And in terms of exposure, again, it's so important that even when we do visit these, let's say, African countries, well, American countries or European countries, we come back to Africa and we contextualize what we have learned to solve the critical solutions in Africa. So we go there, we learn, we come back and we contextualize. That's how we're going to achieve the solutions in solving the problems in Africa. So without wasting any time, I would like to call upon Ms. Lily Mbega, who will be the facilitator, rather the moderator for session 2. Lily, over to you.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining the session. My name is Lili Mbengo, and I'm going to be facilitating the second session of the summit. The topic is leveraging technology and innovation for Pan-African progress. Right. Sorry. So this session will be in the form of a debate. And before we begin, I'd like to set a few ground rules. I'd like for us to respect each other's time and to respect each other's opinions and to just make this really a summit to remember. And as stated earlier, the topic is leveraging technology and innovation for Pan-African progress. And I think before we continue, it's important to make mention that this is a very important discussion that we need to have. You know, Africa is so rich in youthful talent and creativity and resource potential. But I feel like to truly accelerate that, to truly accelerate our development, we need to embrace technology not only as a tool, but also as a driving force towards transformation. I'm proud to announce that I'm joined by a very esteemed panel of speakers. We have Mrs. Ene Awodi. I hope I don't butcher the names. We have Mrs. Ene Awodi Adewumi, who's a doctoral candidate at the Durban University of Technology. She's very passionate about environmental sustainability. And we have Joey Sophia, who's a Women's Commissioner for the AUSP, and Ms. Dumisho Kandindeta, who's a Bachelor of Finance graduate as well as a student leader. Right. So without further ado, I'd like us to just give you a brief overview of how this session is going to be conducted. So we will have a 20-minute breakaway session. We'll join separate rooms. Others will join that they are for the idea of leveraging technology and innovation for Pan-African progress, and others will be against. We'll join these separate rooms for 20 minutes, then we'll come back and make discussions or submissions for 15 minutes. And yes, so to our speakers, you are welcome to join any of the breakaway rooms that you feel like you relate more with. So without any further ado, let's let the conversations begin and let our ideas flow. Thank you so much.
I don't see people joining in the breakaway rooms. So we have the topic. So it's either you're supporting the statement or you're not supporting the statement. The breakaway rooms are now open, so please do join. Notice that we are 35. So let's say about 5 or 6 people in each breakaway room. So please do join in if you are for the statement or not for the statement. And also you'll get an opportunity to chat and to network with fellow students. Thank you.
I think someone's asking where the breakaway rooms are. So for me, they're on the top. You see the icon on the top left of your screen where you have an option to join the breakaway room. I'm not sure if that's the case with you as well.
If you aren't able to join, please let us know, perhaps just by unmuting, and then we'll be able to assign you to a breakaway room if you're supporting the statement or you're not supporting the statement. Then we'll be able to assign you manually. There's still 15 people in the chat, so could you kindly just repeat to the guests that are joining Lily as to what's happening currently?
Okay, so we're having a debate on leveraging technology and innovation for Pan-African progress, and we have breakaway rooms for whether you are for the topic or whether you think that whether you are against the topic. And we have these breakaway rooms for 20 minutes, and then we're going to come back after that and discuss for 15 minutes on our ideas of the topic.
And one of the points that I
Sorry
would
to
raise is that
distract. Sorry, Dumiso. There's too many people in this breakaway room. However, we've already created other breakaway rooms for the people that are supporting the statement so that other people can just get an opportunity as well to communicate and to discuss. Because this is a session for breakaway sessions. Please do join in other breakaway rooms. And then we'll return back within 10 minutes to the main hall. We will be discussing with the participants. Thank you so much.
Okay, just a moment. Hi, good morning. So those that should leave, are they the participants alone, like the speakers, or the participants and the speakers as well?
The speakers can join any other breakaway room, and then the speakers will be given an opportunity to speak in the main room.
Okay, so maybe we just have one speaker here, and then the others can join. Because
Yes,
I think
because it's not time for speakers to engage in any conversation right now, because it's just an open session for anyone to network, share LinkedIn profiles, expand more on the topic. Are you agreeing or not agreeing? So please do join in other breakaway rooms, maybe in groups of 5, and then we'll be able to have more coefficient communication. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Please move to another group so that you can engage with other people. All right, I think you guys can now engage in conversation and meet other people. So the topic is leveraging technology and innovation for Pan-African progress. So are you agreeing with the statement or you are disagreeing? Feel free to engage with your fellow colleagues within this group. Thank you so much.
for me, technology is a big part of the change that we need to focus on. Thanks. I don't know if there's someone else who wants to introduce themselves, and maybe we can get.
Hey, why are you guys not having a conversation? Should I move you to another group? Mm. Mm-hmm. We need to review the curricula and we need exposure. The people are returning back to the main room, Lily. The breakaway rooms have been closed.
I'm not sure if we should give so everyone's here, right?
No, not yet. We'll just give them some time.
I think we should give them a couple of minutes. I think we can begin now.
I think so too. I think everyone is in the room. Perhaps just try and find out, get a review about the breakaway rooms. I think some people were not quite sure as to what to do. Perhaps we need to clarify because even our session 4 is going to be a breakaway room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point of the breakaway rooms was so that people could break away and discuss their ideas and their points and their views on the topic, right, of the session. So, excuse me. So you had to join a room whether you're for the topic or whether you are not for the topic. And then you come back from the breakaway room and just discuss your views on the topic. Not sure if that's clear enough for everyone. Maybe someone else can explain it better than I can. Okay. So
thank you.
Okay. So we were away for quite some time, 20 minutes, just discussing our viewpoints on the topic. For those that have just joined, the topic is leveraging technology and innovation for Pan-African progress. And people broke away into separate groups to discuss if they were for or against the topic. And so I'd like to start with those that were for the topic. The floor is yours. So this will be a discussion of 15 minutes for each team. Yeah.
Hi, good day, everybody. Greetings to my fellow panelists, the organizers, and all participants present. I am for the motion that says leveraging technology and innovation is very important for the progress for the Pan-African progress. Am I audible, please?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. So, Pan-African progress is something, it's a long overdue discussion that we need to have. And it is very timely because Africa has the largest population of youths. There's a study that says about over 60% of youth population that are below the age of 25. But we have challenges that are stopping us from actually engaging globally. And like I think the second speaker spoke in the first session, it is high time we stop talking about the challenges and start talking about the solutions. Now I'm talking about leveraging innovations and technologies. I was reading and I saw that most of the technologies that are right now in Africa were brought in. They were innovations of young minds. Talk of things like flutter waves, like OPay, like money points. These are innovations from youth, and some of them are even breaking the barrier already, and going globally, attracting global attention, and foreign, like other countries, are beginning to even leverage on that to also build their own startups. So I would say that innovation and technology is not just a tool, but it is a force. It is indispensable. We can't do without it in this dispensation that we are in right now. And in our breakaway session, people talked about coming up with local or like initiatives that address our own issue, the African issues, not just borrowing from other countries, but looking around ourselves and coming up with solutions to problems that are peculiar to us in Africa. And there are so many of them actually. In our breakaway session. We wanted to talk about the different types of technologies in the various countries, where the participants represented, but there was no time. But I would just mention a few here, just to encourage, just to open up our minds to see that you don't wait for the future to come to you. You create the future. You build the future. We have something like the ENISA education platform. It started in Kenya, but now it has spread to other African countries as well, which creates opportunity or bridges the gap, between in education, because we know, like the first moderators talked about, education is key. This is one way that creates a very great inequality that causes or reduces the chances of African youth to actually compete on the global platform. So trying to bridge that gap, youth came up with this ENISA platform, and even the Ubongo Kids of Tanzania. These are just platforms that use different like cartoons and to just teach the young kids who have no access to proper education, and teaching them skills that are actually competitive on the global scale and not just outdated skills. And then we have things also, or technologies and innovations that are focused on the health line, like M M M okay, I can't really remember the name right now, but this technology where you buy drugs and then you send a code, you scratch and then you send the code to a particular number, and then they tell you M pedigree. Yes, that is the name. It detects counterfeit drugs by using codes. It's a Ghanaian innovation, and it has saved a lot of lives. Where you can know that, okay, this drug I purchased is original or it is, counterfeit. So I'm saying here that technology and innovation is an indispensable tool to create the future we all want as Pan-African progress. Thank you so much. I'll give the opportunity to the other speakers to speak. And if there are any follow-up questions, I would love to answer them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I think I'm edible. I'm Joa Sophie Mroza, and I'm from Rwanda. And I'm founder of and CEO of Ekomama. It's a digital mental health platform that aims to help women to have access to mental health care, mainly in face of climate change. Yeah, thank you. And following this topic, it is very interesting topic. In today fast-paced world, technology for me is not luxury, it's a necessity. Treating it as luxury will limit our progress, because we know that when we recognize it as a necessity, we begin to invest in inclusion, innovation, and get equal opportunities. For example, in the previous session, Enoch said about how our telephone can be our studio, our part of communication. Of course, it is. the smartphone can be your studio, it can be your classroom, and it can be your business through technology. And of course, there is a biggest challenge that is still on. It's accessibility in many areas, and it's lack of skills that are overloaded in Pan-African. But of course, those challenge can be turned into opportunity. For example, creating tech ecosystem that is for Africa and by African. Yes, they said about more platforms that have close different African countries, and it's still going on. For example, here in Rwanda, drone deliver bloods to different hospitals, and in Kenya, many mobile health platforms serve more lives. And in different countries, for example, South Africa, mental apps reach to areas where the clinics can reach. And this is part of technology. And as African, we have to take this opportunity, because as African, we don't lack ideas, but we lack the opportunity to get mentorship, to get accessibility to funds, to get the accessibility to mentors who can help us in turning those ideas into something that is needed for African. And we need the voices. But voices can start from us. As Africa, we have to start where we are and lead the tech with what we have, because technology is not something that is built for one day to one, but we need 3 P's. P1 is purpose, P2 is passion, and P3 is people. Take everyone as opportunity, and take everyone as one who can help you to leverage your idea. And of course, it needs time. But if we don't take as opportunity, we still be down. But we don't have to be down, but we have to rise. For Africa, and Africa doesn't mean idea. It's just more than idea. It's changing those opportunity through something that can be accessible to our community, means taking a risky. And those risky, we are able. Technology is something that is inevitable in nowadays. So from mobile phones to AI-powered chatbot are not just changing how we can communicate, but how we learn, but how we heal, and how we breathe and imagine in this world. So leveraging this technology can help us in ensuring that our countries are at high of overcoming those challenges that have been meeting us, for example, education and health access, and not only have access, but of course in leadership. As in this world, we have to manage and learn skills for not job, but for saving our communities. Have to learn tech skills and learn digital skills that can help us in managing those. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for such an insightful and informative submission, Joey. So I have a question for you, right? You mentioned the fast-growing progress when it comes to technology in today's age, right? So we know it's a fact that access to technology is still unequal across the continent. So how do we then ensure that rural and under-resourced communities aren't left behind?
Yes, thank you so much for a good question. Of course, it is possible through technology. We know that technology is not limited by geographical barriers, for example, the floods, climate disasters, but it is limited through data accessibility, through privacy, and through the funding that can support those technology. And knowing that those from left underserved communities are not left behind, have to make sure that we have accessibility of low data solutions, and mainly, if possible, offline services that can be accessible for those who are not in high internet network and connectivities. And of course, you have to make sure that this technology solution meet the privacy and confidentiality of the users, because without that there is no inequality, there is no equality, it is inequality, because when we don't serve those from underserved communities, technology is not innovation, but it will be inequalities, because you have to make sure that youth, you have to make sure that women, you have to make sure that those with disabilities have access to this technology through managing data solution, through managing accessibility through online, and those for offline is if possible, and through ensuring that the privacy and confidentiality of the users are at point of the view. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Does anyone from the floor have a question? So we're open to questions from the other participants as well.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, my name is João Paulo from Angola. And, I'm a student at African University in Zimbabwe. Yes, I'm a member for Africa Union Student Platform. I have one question. I want to address any question for or say your name or Mahosa. I explain well your name. Joyce Safia Omahosa.
Yes,
Is
Joao
correct?
Sophie Mboza. Yes, thank you, no problem.
Exactly, yes. Can you show us an example or an evidence for what is the benefit you use the technology innovation for the medicine robotic, right? In Rwanda, yes, concretely for your area, all right? Can you show us an example for the technology innovation with or in medicine robotic? Can you show us an example and benefit?
Yes, thank you so much for a good question. Instead, I was first saying that how the drones are delivering blood through hospitals is a part of technologies. Here in Rwanda, you have the technology we're using the drones, where it is called zip line, where the blood are transformed by drone through remote areas, through underserved communities and through hospitals, and it is accessible for those who can get the blood at at easy price because of climate disasters or geographical areas. And these drones are serving more hospitals, and at the day and at the time and at hours, it is serving more than 100 and 1,000 people in different countries. That is one. And secondly, here we have a hospital which is called King Faisal Hospital, and in this hospital there is a machine, and it is a surgical robotics that where the surgeon can use those robots with using in combination with human-centered care to make operation for the client, mainly for those who have neurological problems. So yeah, that is an example that I can share. And here there is another university which is called the Karen Neuron University, where they are making drones, the robotics to ensure that it can serve those patients with different conditions to have the access to medical care, and it is starting to get underserved communities. I can say that while mainly the challenge is still going, but opportunity they are there, and they are being accessible for those who are at higher risk of not getting it. Thank you. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Yes, well done. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Yes, I hear well. All right. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you for that question. Right. So, in the absence of any other questions, I'm not sure if anyone else from the floor has a question. Right. So, in the absence of any other questions, perhaps we should have a moment of reflection for Mrs. Anne Awardee. So, in what way? Am I audible? Okay, sorry. In what way is technology already shaping Africa, and right, and where do we fall behind in that aspect? Also, in addressing us on the comment in the chat box. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for the question. I want to start first by bringing our attention to the African continental free trade, which is something big. And if Africa is able to deliver on that, it is looking to bring together about 1.4 billion people and to trade for free across borders. We know very much that this cannot be successful without innovative technology. And I believe so much that in terms of logistics, in terms of finances, those are very two key points which would actually contribute significantly to the success of the African continental free trade. So I'm going to give examples now in the finance sector. We have things like Flutterwaves, which has gone global now. We have Money Point, we have OPay. Most of these started from Nigeria, but now they have spread to other African countries. And recently, Flutterwaves actually attracted some grants from Google, from the Silicon Valley. So we have to break down the barrier in terms of the technological and economic barrier so that this transfers of money and logistics can happen across borders. So it's not just restricted to one African country, but it can actually go beyond that African country to other countries. Coming back to your question, sorry, can you just rephrase again and then so that I know how to comment?
Okay, no problem. So my question is, in what way is technology already shaping Africa, in the development trajectory, sorry, and where are we falling behind?
Well, in terms of where it is shaping, these things that I've mentioned already, and Sophia also mentioned the zip line, where we have drones delivering blood and medical supplies to rural areas that are not reached, and in the fintech, like the finance technology aspect, where you can now transfer money, like cheaper cash in Kenya. You can transfer money like from Kenya to other African countries and like that. So those are ways that we are making progress, and these innovations are actually led by youths. Like I said earlier, the future, there's no future to inherit physically, but we have to create the future we want for ourselves, a progressive one, a sustainable one. So I'll put out a call first to all youths. Don't think small. Look around yourself and look for problems within your immediate environment and proper solutions to them. And you would never know where that will take you to. So there are so many innovative technologies that have come up by youth. And where we are lagging behind is mentorship. There are about over 700 tech hubs across Africa. Mostly the hotspots are in Nigeria, in Accra, Nairobi, South Africa, and a few other countries. But we still need more of that. We still need more of that. If we can create these tech hubs in locations that are even closer to the rural areas and train people, train this youth one of the speakers mentioned something. She said, we do not lack the capacity to be able um, to innovate. What we lack is mentorship and then the education. So if we can create mentorship hub and train this young individual, I tell you, Africa is going to boom like very soon, and the whole world will actually resonate with it and actually queue behind us because we have the manpower, we have the knowledge. But what we need is the training, the mentorship, and we have so many okay, I wouldn't say so many. We have a few um startups like that are mentoring youth, but we still need more of that. We still need more of that. And we still have so many challenges as Africans. And so each and every one of us has a responsibility to actually look at our immediate environment, find problems, challenges, and proper solutions to them. So basically, what I'm saying is where we are lacking behind is the mentorship and the training and the education part. And we have, I've given examples of so many innovative technologies which youths have come up with, and they are functional to this. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, you've answered my question. Thank you so much. Now I believe it is time to move on to the opposing side of the argument. The people who are saying no.
Sorry, Miss Lily Bengo.
Yes.
Yes, I don't know if we say well your name. I pronounce well your name. Is correct? Lily Bengo.
Lily Mbengo, yes, correct.
Lily Bang. All right. Yes, but can you give me 2 minutes because I have a contribution. I want to give my contribution. Is it possible?
2 minutes.
Yes. All right. Yes. Any Wahadi. Well done. Well done for your answer. But I want to show an evidence for the for this question. We can look for Africa Exim banking. The last year, African Exim banking, we implemented for the African market the new applicative about for the technology innovation to refer for the payment. This application, someone we call the PASP, the Pan African System payment. This application is a great success for in Africa, all right, the world country in Africa. But the Africa young is a smart, all right, but it's depend, all right, the world initiative for the technological innovation for our country, our region, all right, for Africa, specifically for the SADC region, all right. This is the big area for development in Africa, but it depends concretely for the government initiative because African country has a lot of resource we can do better for technology and you know you know innovation. But the big challenge, anytime I agree with how we can say the financial aid, but for my vision of in my experience, the big challenge is the desire, is the love, is the patience for our African political leadership. Because I'm young, you are young. We have the good initiative we can implement the technology innovation for our country, our community, but we can show our initiative for the government local, we can see the barrier, we can implement it other issues because African innovation technology associated for artificial intelligence, the intelligence or the digital processing will be successful. The world African leadership or the world Africa political leadership, we think the same issue, the same solution. All right. Thank you for your audience. I think my time is passed.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm not sure if I'm butchering your name, Mr. Zhao. But
Yeah, Joao. Yes. Okay.
now we move on to, for the interests of time, we move on to the second part of the session where we have our submissions from the opposing side. Ms. Tumi Shondeta, the floor is yours. Oh, she just left the session. Okay, I think we need to, maybe she has connectivity issues, maybe give her a few moments to rejoin the session. Okay.
I think Ms. Dumisa was also part of the supporting.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, she was. So I think for now we can answer the question from Mr. Preston Simbaya, and then I'll also ask the question, a follow-up question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think Lily, your hand is up, Mr. Preston Simbaya. Would you like to ask the question related to the current topic?
Am I audible?
Yes, but there's an echo.
Sorry, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Hello? Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased, I think, to be part of this session. My name is Preston Simbea. I'm founding president of AUSP International. And I'm glad to be part of this session once again and just well done AUSP South Africa chapter for another yet exciting summit. Now, I want to ask a very rhetorical question to all of us here, and I think even to the panelists, those both that are supporting the motion and those that are against. And I want to ask this question so that even as we are debating or discussing this subject, we may understand also another important aspect. And I think my question goes as, do we as youths of Africa today understand our old technologies that have been used in the past to leverage the sustainability of our societies that we are living in right now? And how do we incorporate or integrate the new technology systems into our current so that we stay authentic and that we do not completely depend on foreign technologies or what? Because when we talk about innovation, meaning you have an existing, then you're now trying to improve it. So the question is, do we understand the old technologies that have leveraged our societies? And have we discovered some of the lapses or the challenges that they have, then that now we need to completely do away or integrate into the new technology systems, so that in the end, again, we do not suffer the same situations that we've suffered before, where we embrace and get rid of completely our old technologies. And then, you know, sometimes technology can be absolute because you are using a foreign system and the owner of that system decides to withhold that. How do we then stay put to sustain our communities and our societies? I think that is a question that I wanted to pose to both the participants that are supporting and those that are against the statement, and also to all of us as participants in this summit. I thank you, Madam Moderator.
Yes, you may respond, Mrs. Ene. Can switch on your video and respond. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for that question. I think it is a very important question in this discussion we're having. And first of all, I want to say that it is important that we keep having these conversations as often as possible until we, the youth, understand it and have it in our subconscious that we must not wait for things to happen. We must not wait for foreign innovations to come rescue us, but we must look within. We must look at our immediate environment and proffer solutions. Because when you look at the challenges in your environment, the solutions you're going to proffer will actually be centered on that problem itself. Sorry for the break a bit. So when you look at the challenges around you and you're going to profile a solution, the solution will actually fit into that problem. So it is not going to imbibe or imitate a model from somewhere else. So the answer, one of the answers I would say, is to actually look around us, look within us. And we have to keep investing in our minds, because it is out of the abundance of what you have that you can actually give. You can't be innovative or creative if you have not enriched your mind to make yourself or get yourself to that point where you can actually come up with new ideas that can actually provide solutions to the problems around you. So first of all, let's invest in ourselves through having robust conversations like this and through training, capacity building. We can do that for ourselves by leveraging on the technological tools available. We have so many online courses where you can actually learn a lot of things and get certifications that can equip you to actually solve solutions within your environment. Thank you so much. I'll stop here.
Sarana, you may ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, I'm responding to Preston's question. It's very thought-provoking. So I'm in the health sector. And I'm just thinking, in South Africa, one of the long-standing techs or tech companies that have been working well is the banking sector. But I know nothing about the banking sector because we're so siloed. I've got problems in the health sector that need their tech or their tech-mindedness to solve. But I hardly interact with those people. And I think that's the beauty of such platforms. And probably my mission going forward is to go across the sectors to present the problems that I'm having, understand what problems the other sectors are also having, and then we try to find those solutions. Because one thing that's for sure is that the same minds that created the problems that I'm facing right now will not be the mindsets that are going to solve those problems. I may need to import different mindsets, how other people think in different sectors so that I can solve these problems. And also import some of my or export some of our successes in our sector into the other sectors that might be struggling as well.
Thank you so much for that response, Ms. Lilimberger. I'd like to ask a question and perhaps we can wrap up this session. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the statement that Mrs. Enna said that it's time for us Africans to start talking about solutions. And I do agree with that statement. However, in my reading, I have read that most people in Africa still don't have access to the internet, yet we are talking about digitalizing things. We are talking about technology. We are talking about technology innovation, whereas we still don't have access to the internet. So how do we then implement those solutions for the people in Africa? And I think my question here lies with, should we follow the trends as Africans? Because yes, digitalization and technology innovation, we can classify it as trends, although it's very important for us to be advanced and to be technologically advanced because it makes life more easier or simpler. But should we hop on this trend, or should we first try and solve the critical issues that have been long-standing in Africa? For example, we still have telecommunication issues. We still have electricity issues. Some people cannot join, for example, in this webinar because they do not have electricity, or they do not have data, or they do not have landlines, in their various communities. Yet we are talking about technology. Are we following trends, or should we first solve the critical, long-standing historical problems that Africa has? I think that's my question that I have to Ms. Ene, Mrs. Ene, and also Joey. And then we will hand over to Lily to introduce our next guest speaker, who is Ms. Dumiso from Botswana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. We are all aware of that barrier, that challenge of technology not getting to the rural areas, even till now as we speak. But we cannot wait forever. So we have to do this side by side. We keep these conversations going and keep these innovations coming from the areas that have access to internet and to data. And then we also focus, on the other hand, on parts or rural areas that are having these challenges with network connectivity. And I believe so much that building tech hubs, that is one way to start. It doesn't take, okay, it may take so much, but it is something that can be done. A group of youth can come together and be like, okay, we're going to start a tech hub with maybe just 3 computers and maybe a limited amount of data of connectivity, and then they start from there, and then it begins to grow. But we can't just sit around and do nothing. We just have to do something, and these two would have to go side by side. So innovation keep coming from those that are equipped, and then we also that are equipped would reach out to the rural areas that are having these challenges and start something, no matter how small, no matter how little, and then we can begin to build from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think my takeaway here is that just start. We don't have to start with big projects, but we need to start somewhere. So without wasting any time, I'll hand over to you, Ms. Lily, to introduce Ms. Dumiso Ndenda. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Ms. Dumiso, we lost you for a second there. Ms. Dumiso is our third speaker for the day. She is a Bachelor of Finance graduate, as well as a student leader. So, Ms. Dumiso, can you please let us know what your stance is with regards to today's topic? Are you for, are you against the topic, and why is that the case?
Good morning, everyone. Today, I will be supporting the motion that leveraging technology and innovation is important for Pan-African progress. And to explain this, I would have to explain what the statement means in itself. Starting with leveraging. Leveraging means using something to its full advantage. Technology being the use of scientific knowledge to make life better. Technology such as mobile phones, applications, internet, renewable energy. Innovation refers to coming up with new ideas and better ways of solving problems, especially the problems that we face as Africans. And finally, Pan-African progress speaks to the development of Africa as a whole and not just as individual countries, but the entire continent moving forward together economically, socially, and politically. So, what the motion is really saying is if we want Africa to grow stronger, to be more united, we need to start implementing modern tools and ideas to solve challenges that we are facing as a continent. And I believe this is something that's already happening. For example, one way that we can leverage technology and innovation for Pan-African progress is because it helps the economy grow and create jobs. For example, in Botswana, we have the Botswana Innovation Hub. This is an organization that its sole mandate is to help young people and businesses to use technology and innovation to fund these companies that help solve problems that we're facing. And as Ene had mentioned, that the problems that, or the innovations that we create, they need to be problems that we are facing currently as Africans. And I know that they mentioned it, but one of them would be being able to send and receive money from anywhere without having a bank account. One of the applications are M-Pesa. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. And in Botswana, we have Orange Money and Mascom Maizaka, B-Mobile Smega. So these companies are basically telecommunication companies, ones that provide SIM cards, Wi-Fi, and the likes, but they have deviated not just from being telecommunication companies, but to also providing these services. So in a sense, they have grown their business model to more than just telecommunications, but now they're helping people who live in underserved communities to be able to send and receive money. And in a way, they have created thousands of jobs by expanding their business model. And more young people are now able to work in tech, coding, social media marketing, and mobile banking because of these new technologies.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I guess I have one question for you. Do you not believe that the heavy reliance on technology, or rather the heavy emphasis on technology, puts African sovereignty at a risk, or do you not think that it cripples African sovereignty?
May you please rephrase your question?
Okay. So, right, there is so much emphasis on leveraging technology, as a way of innovation and, all of these other aspects, right? and we have our sovereignty as Africans as a continent, right? This means that we are not very reliant on outside sources and we are able to stand on our own. Do you not then think that this introduction or this overemphasis, or rather this heavy reliance on technology, does not cripple our sovereignty, our independence as a nation?
No, if anything, I think it helps us to come together as a continent because, I think the problem is, maybe I'm scared to admit, but I don't understand what sovereignty means. If you would clarify that.
Okay, so loosely put, the sovereignty of a state is the ability of a state, or rather in this case, the continent's ability to make its own decisions, to have its own system that it has running without interference from other systems, so loosely put, that is what sovereignty is.
Okay, then I still believe that I don't think it does interfere because if anything, they are making the systems in a way that they help our continent specifically. So I don't think that having technology.
Sorry, Dumiso, you muted there. I'm really sorry. Please do unmute and then.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Thank you so much.
Okay. I was saying that the way that, is my video on?
Yes, it's on. It's on.
Okay. I was saying that the way that we are using technology and innovation within Africa, we are implementing it in a way that it serves our needs specifically. So I don't think we are using it in a way that it helps us to solve the problems that we are facing specifically. So I don't think it affects our sovereignty or our ability to make our own independent decisions.
Thank you so much. You did answer my question. I don't know if our country director has anything to say.
No, I don't, but I see Miss Anna's hand is up, and perhaps after her, we can just wrap up the session for the sake of time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I just want to add a bit or clarify what Mr. just said. It's that's according to Lily's question. It actually gives us an edge. Technology places us on an equal playing ground. And I'll just give a simple example because of time. So let's assume you have to move from your house and or from your location to a place that is like 5 hours away, and then you do not have a car, and then someone else going to the same place has got a car, but you would have to trek down. Now it is going to take you more than twice or 3 times, like the amount of time it will take someone with a car to get to that same location. So that already puts you at a disadvantage. So actually technology, rather than bringing down our sovereignty, it actually places us on an equal playing ground with the global community and grants us the opportunity to compete fairly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see that hand up. I think this will be the last hand so that we can move over to the next session. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Louis Kakese, a student at Africa University in Zimbabwe. So I wanted to ask a question concerning
technology and innovation for Pan-African project. Having a background in agriculture, so one of the challenge of leveraging technology, it is about looking at the people who are living in the rural area. It says that we have almost 53% of people living in rural area. I want to ask to the panelists, do you think that the things that we are discussing, technology and innovation, they are very good and important for the development of Africa? Do you think that in the rural area, they are also aware of this? Does our education system in Africa inform the student living in rural area concerning the technology? So, as young leaders in Africa, we are discussing. I'm from DRC. Some of the people that are from Botswana. What can be some of the solution that we can propose in terms of leveraging technology in the cities, but also in rural area, regarding the importance and the contribution of these people, for example, in the agricultural sector, because most of the things that we are having, we are consuming, they are coming from the rural area. So we can at least propose something concerning the rural area, the people, the rural communities. It can help us to develop fast, and it can be something good. But what are some of the recommendations that, as least those who have made the research on this, can propose? That is my question. I don't know if it is understandable.
Yes, you may proceed, Ms. Joey, and then we will have to wrap up the session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the question, Luis. It is a great question, and I can answer in storytelling way. In my country, there is a little areas where women can take miles and miles to search for medical health care because it is not accessible in easy way. And imagine that there is an app that has been inserted in their community and they can get the initial health care that they need. It can be life-saving. This is how technology must be working. Because the question is, when we make these tech health hubs or even other technology hubs, it includes in urban areas because we are focused on earning money and earning visibility, not just for creating impact. But when we can integrate in rural areas, it can be life-saving as is in urban areas. Because we know that in rural areas, many people are not educated and they have problem of getting what to eat and what and the care that they can need to survive. But imagine that how we teach those from urban areas are integrated in teaching those from rural areas. It can be more than what we need, what we think. So this is how we can make the solution possible. Integrating those innovative ideas we have and moving those ideas from urban areas to rural areas, and not only we have to serve them, but to teach them how to use it, how to get accessible to it, because we know that they are limited in more areas, but making sure that again they are gaining opportunity to learn, opportunity to access those services can be more accessible. As the recommendation, as youth, let's trust ourselves to lead innovation. Let's create innovation, but let's also teach ourselves and teach our communities. And we don't have to focus on urban areas because there is an accessibility of more solutions that are there. But also think about how, if am I going to live there? Why am I going to survive? And if not, go beyond and serve them, teach them. And of course, it will need you more resources and but that is why we are here, through collaboration, through engaging with more different funding partners. They can help us to leverage this technology, and we can overcome this problem, and we can make offline first apps, and even SMS can serve more people, because there is an app here where I think it serves those who are in an accessible area of internet. They can get SMS about how everything there is going, how climate change is going to be in the day and night, so that they can be aware about how to take care of their life. And it is done through offline with no data. So we have to make sure that the solution we create is accessible, and the skills that you need are equipped for those who are not educated and who are at underserved community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Lily, for facilitating this session. We are now moving over to session 3 for today, and I'd like to introduce Ms. Jessica Dlamini, who is the Women Commissioner for South Africa. Jessica, over to you.
Okay, very good morning to everyone. Can I confirm if I am audible?
Yes, you are audible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, as I've been introduced by our country director, my name is Jessica Dlamini, and I am the Women Commissioner representative for South Africa. And I am thrilled to be a facilitator for this session. So, as we gather today, I want to ignite a spark that will fuel meaningful conversations, inspire new ideas, and forge connections that drive positive change. So now, imagine a world where women leaders are not just, or imagine a world where women leaders are the norm and not just the exception. There's a world where equality, justice, and empowerment thrive. So, as we move through this session, let's work together as leaders, mentors, and change makers to break down barriers and create opportunities for all. Let's make this vision a reality. So, before we start this session, can I kindly request that we mute our mics to avoid any disturbances and utilize the chat box for any comments and any questions that you might have? Or if it's not utilizing the chat box, please raise your hand and then we will attend to any question or anything that you might have to add. So before we dive into our discussion, I want us to do something, just a quick little activity. So let's play a quick word association game. So I'd like each and every one of you type in the comment section what women in leadership. So this could be a trait, it could be a challenge, it could be an opportunity, anything at all that comes into mind when you hear the terms women in leadership. So throughout the session, we'll explore policies, practices, and initiatives that can help women thrive in leadership positions. So we will be discussing the challenges, celebrate the successes, and identify opportunities for growth and development. So my goal is to create a safe, inclusive, and engaging environment where we can share our thoughts, experiences, and insights. So can we start with the word association game? So what is
Sorry, Jess, we lost you there. Let me just check on her.
your word?
Sorry, Jess, we lost you. Are you still there?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so there's a comment here by
Jessica,
Gwina
sorry,
which says
Jessie.
competence.
Jess.
Um, ex- Sorry?
We lost you. We lost you. So could you kindly repeat what
Okay.
people should text in the chat box? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I was
And that's
saying,
what you
can
said.
we, so you say what comes into mind when you hear women in leadership. So this could be a trait, this could be a challenge or opportunity, anything that comes into mind when you hear someone say women in leadership. So from the comments here in the chat box, I see one that says resilient in adversity. That's a very powerful one. The next one is competence, experience, and merit, and above all else. I'll give it just a few seconds for people to type in the chat box what they think about, what comes into mind when they hear women in leadership.
Jace, we lost you. Your internet is a bit unstable. I'm not sure if you're still in the room. So Jessica is having network issues, but she will rejoin. So the question was, what is one word that comes into mind when you think about women that are in leadership? So one word that comes to mind when you think about women that are in leadership, please note that this question is not only open to women in the room, but also to the gentlemen that are in the room. Considering that we also want men to be part of these conversations that women have, so that when we do shape policies, we know that we are not just shaping policies that are going to accommodate women, but will also be inclusive for the men that we'll be working with, because women will not work in silos, but they will work with women as well. I see that Jess is back. Jess, I will now hand over to you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm having issues with my network. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I was having issues with my network. Can you please kindly read what
What
the
people
chat?
said in the chat. Okay, awesome. So people are saying that women in leadership mean resilient in adversity, competence, experience, and merit over and above all else. Others are saying visionary leaders. Singola is saying empowerment. And Louise is saying women in leadership is equal to the involvement of women in decision-making processes. Well, this is me. I said inclusion. Saran said word association, not tailored support. the current way pathways are designed for men. So he's saying that the current pathways are designed for men and perhaps not suitable for women. And Aka is saying equality, NA is saying power, Njabula Hadebe is saying empowerment, Hope is saying resilient. Sambia is saying the woman who has the ability to solve a problem in her environment. So that's what we have in the chat currently.
Okay, thank you very much for all of those lovely comments in the chat. Please keep them in mind because as we are going through this session, we will be unpacking most of what you guys would have raised in the comment section. So before we start the session, can I please confirm if Sinate is in the call? Sinate, are you in the call?
Sanati is not in the call, but I've noticed that she's been joining. Perhaps she is. Yes, she is in the call. She is.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So I would like to introduce our guest speaker for the session, which is Ms. Sinat Delitsi. She is a women commissioner representative from Lesotho, and Ms. Studies and public administration student at the Passionate Youth Activist. So she currently serves as advocating for women empowerment and youth, a key role in shaping national reforms, including the Lesotho National Youth Policy and Youth Compact. So, as the first female chair lady of the NUL campus government and a member of the Commonwealth Students Association, her leadership is a testament to the power of youth driven change. Her work aligns with the SDGs and the Agenda 2063, championing women as vital agents of Africa's future. So, allow me to welcome Ms. Sinate, who is our guest speaker. Ms. Sinate, can you please unmute yourself and just give us a quick hello before we dive into the questions of the session?
Hello everyone. Am I Jess? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you so much. You have just introduced me, so I think I'll skip that part.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sinate. So the topic for this session is policies and practices that should be implemented to promote women's empowerment and leadership position. So as we are going, can you please share what are the most significant barriers and challenges that you have faced in your journey to leadership, and how did you overcome them?
Okay, thank you, Jessica, for the question. One of the biggest barriers that I faced was being underestimated. Not because I lacked skills or ideas, but simply because I'm a young woman. Often in meetings or leadership spaces, especially in my university, my contributions were ignored or second guessed. I think that was because of the way the society views us as women. We know that the society often tells us that leadership isn't our place as women. From early age, we are socialized to lead from behind, to be humble, quiet, and supportive, while our brothers are told to be strong, vocal, and visible. That mindset follows us into politics, education, workplaces, and even our families. So I overcame that by choosing consistency over recognition. I kept showing up, speaking up, and doing the work even when no one was clapping. Over time, people began to respect that what I bring to the table. I also made sure to surround myself with other bold, purpose-driven women, and that gave me strength when things felt heavy. So what I have realized is that in politics, many women in Africa face gender-based violence. They lack funding, and sometimes you may find that men gatekeep them. Are you still
Okay,
there,
thank you,
Jessica?
Ms. Nate. Are you done with your response?
Seems like your network is very bad.
Ms. Nate, are you?
We can hear you, Sinati.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Jessica. Both you and Sinati are audible.
Okay, so Ms. Nate, you mentioned
Perhaps just please try
consistency
and switch off your video. Perhaps your network
and
connectivity may be better.
showing up, right? And when if I can remember, was someone audible and clear now?
You were breaking, so I suggested that you switch off your video and only unmute. So you've been quite unstable.
Okay, am I audible right now?
Yes, perfectly so. Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying that Ms. Nate mentioned something about consistency, showing up, even though there were these challenges, there were these barriers, but she kept on showing up. So that showed her consistency. And I remember that there's someone in the chat box that mentioned something about resilience. So you see, when I say that the stuff that you would have mentioned in your chat box are going to be unpacked as we go through the session. So from what you are saying, Ms. Nate, is we can see that you did, show that resilience, even though there were these challenges, there were these barriers, but you did not let them hold you back. So can I just want to probe further on that question, of the barriers that you have faced in your leadership position. Were there any specific support systems or networks that helped you to overcome these barriers and challenges that you have faced in your leadership journey? Ms. Senate, are you still in the call?
Yes, Jess. Can you please repeat your question? You had a cut.
Okay, so I was saying, probing further on the question of barriers and challenges, that you have faced in your leadership journey. Were there any support systems or networks that helped you to overcome these barriers, or did you just, overcome them on your own, or did you have any support to overcome them?
Yes, I had support. I had to associate myself with women feminists. I had to identify women leaders and ask them how they overcame the challenges that I was faced with, and they told me that it takes oneself to know what they want.
Sorry, Ms. Sonate, can you please repeat that last portion of your response? Ms. Sanate, are you still with us?
I also joined leadership training programs that were targeting young women, and that's where I learned about the skills and the
I think we've lost Ms. Nati there due to perhaps network issues. I think we can move over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem then. Can I please confirm if Miss Joey is in the call?
Yes, she is.
Okay, Miss Joey. So, Miss Joey is also a women commissioner representative within the AUSP. So, Miss Joey, what are some of the significant barriers that you have faced in your leadership journey, be it within the AUSP or even outside of the AUSP? Because I know that you have been in various leadership positions, outside of the AUSP. So, what are the most significant barriers or challenges that you have faced in your leadership journey, and how did you overcome them?
Yes, thank you so much for the good question. It's really important. And yeah, of course, in my leadership, I have met more different barriers. First barriers was me of the reason why I'm saying it's me, because I was while I started, I was pushing myself that uh, I'm not able, I don't have more skills, I will be winning myself. So, and I was like not knowing what to do. But after I have realized that against yourself is not a solution as a leader, but pushing yourself to the solution is a key point. I started to with myself, to engaging in different topics, discussions, and even having more expertise, asking how to lead with making change. And of course, I have engaged in having more trainings about leadership, because what I was lacking was skills. And I started, and I'm still learning. I'm still searching for skills that I can improve my leadership. So to ensure that I'm still not uh, ruining myself, I guess, seeing myself for leadership roles, I started to get more in leadership with discussion groups, women discussions, so that I can see how women speak, how women engage in leadership, how someone can lead and make the impact in their community. And secondly, was limited to the skills and mentorship. And this is, of course, is still challenge. But as in previous session have said that our smartphone are our studio, and our classroom, and our business. I started engaging on how to see to engage in different conversations, so that I can get more skills on how to lead with change. So we think our leadership and overcoming a challenge start from us. While we are against ourselves, we are not going to do something. But the reason I have get from this, we have to don't wait for perfect condition as a leader, and we have to start where we are with what we have. And because Africa doesn't lack idea, it's more than that. Whether we are in different countries, whether we are in different leadership skills where women are not uplifted, where their voices are still down, we have to keep pushing, keep going. The future is African, and the leader are us. we have to make sure that we are not limiting ourselves, because when we limit ourselves, we limit our progress. But when we uplift ourselves, we uplift our progress. So that's what I can say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Joey. So, um, you said quite a hand. Barriers are not just external forces; they are also internal forces that create those barriers. Because if, as a woman, you are not trusting yourself enough to be in that leadership position, like you are doubting yourself, then that also can be a significant or a greater barrier. Because if you do not believe in yourself, then how can other people also believe in yourself? So thank you for mentioning that. There are those internal forces as well that form challenges or the barriers in leadership positions as women. So you also mentioned skills, learning, mentorship. So Miss Joey, just to ask this question, do you think that policies, okay, you can speak for your country specifically. Do you think that policies are doing enough to support women in leadership?
Yes, thank you so much. I can say yes, because we don't have to wait for having the time of readiness, because there is no readiness out there, because we have to use what we have. So the policies that are in my country, they are promoting women, they are promoting different leadership skills, and even though the challenge are not yet overcome, but guess what? Every step, every opportunity, every challenge can be opportunity for some and for others, because when there in my country there is a process that want that women can be in leadership roles, and more than 150% they are starting to engage in leadership skills in one sector to another. So we have to ensure that these policy are still going through our voices, through ensuring that the laws that we are holding are not just at table, but we have to use the power we get. So, as the policies are guiding us in ensuring that women, and not only women but and men, are their voices are uplifted to make the impact. So we have to ensure that even us, what we have are being used fully, and in an inclusive way, without not letting anyone behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Joey, for that. Can I please confirm if Ms. Sanelisiwe Kumalo is in the call?
Last time I checked, she was. Perhaps you can just unmute. Sanelisiwe, are you in the call? Yes, she is, but she's still muted. I think Sinati is having some network problems. She's been joining in and leaving the room. So please.
Yes. I've noticed that. Ms. Sanelisiwe Kumalo, are you in the call?
She is in the call.
Okay, I think it could be some network issues. So, can I please pose this question to you, Ms. Atlekhan? As you are the country director of AUSP South Africa, so do you think that South Africa is doing enough? Is our policies doing enough to support women in leadership?
Honestly, I think we have enough policies. Well, there are policies, but the problem is that they're not implemented. There are so many programs that are for women currently, And perhaps they are just programs on pen and paper, programs that have frameworks, but we are struggling with seeing the implementation of that. We are talking about women empowerment and we are talking about giving women first preference, but at the end of the day, it goes back as it being talk. Again, we have a lot of women communities that women branch out. If you look at certain application forms, whether it be for entrepreneurship, for African Union opportunities, you'd find that there are programs set apart for women. There are a lot of programs that are for women that are to empower women to become better leaders, for women to be economically active. But I still question at the end of the day, when I look at the people that are in power, when I look at the people that are in authority, that is it, do they just create that they're still men? And I'm not against men. I am not a feminist. I believe that as a woman, I have my own power where I am sent. Wherever I am sent to, I have influence and I dominate. I do not want to fight against the men power, but I can help their vision and I can also support what they carry. However, I think the misconception here is that as women sometimes is that we want to replace men. I'm not really quite familiar with the concept of feminism, whether it's a cancel culture of men, but I do not believe in that. However, I believe that as women, if we are empowered enough, we can add to the team of what men are already building, that we will not join the team of men as us wanting to replace men, but we will step into authority knowing that us as women, we have the power to influence what men can actually implement. So I think the problem here is that there are programs and that do empower women and the policies that do empower women, but the implementation turns to be the problem. And sometimes the problem lies on us women, that when we step into these rooms, we want to discredit men. And that's where the conflict starts. And then we now complain that our voices are not being heard. Whereas if we had just owned our position, earned our part as women, that we are entering the room to influence and men have to go out and implement. So to answer your question, yes, there are policies, but there is an implementation issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. As we have heard from Ms. Atlahan that, you know, these things are there. It's just we have a very huge gap in the implementation of which the ideas, the policies might be there, but how are they useful if they are not being implemented? And I believe that there's a lot, of policies in our country that have been put in place, to support various sectors, but then we have an issue with implementation. I would like to quickly go to the chat box. There is a comment here by Dina. He says that young people need to exercise caution against policies that look progressive but are not accompanied by tangible plans, resources, institutions, and political will to translate them into actionable solutions for the challenges we speak of. Policy without those is inadequate. Otherwise, policies remain statements and intent. I think he's reiterating what I'm saying, that how are these policies going to be useful if they are not being implemented? And it is very true that these policies might look progressive, but then if they're not accompanied by these tangible plans that he is stating here, the resources, because if you are saying we have such and such a policy, but we do not have any resources to be able to implement them, you see, it further creates that gap in the implementation. Do we have the institutions to do so, the political will? So, yeah, I see what you are saying, Dina. He also goes on to say, women also need to exercise greater agency in their own development. The fight should go beyond wanting to be in spaces that exist. It should also be about creating own spaces to pursue women development objectives. Yo, yeah, that's something that I also am reflecting on, because I think women actually wait for spaces, then that's when they say, I am going to now exist because there's a space that was created. But what happens now when you find that those spaces are not created? Does it mean that women are going to be laid back because now there's no space that I can be able to put myself into? So yeah, that's very true that we should create our own spaces. Let's not wait for somebody else to create a space for us. Let us also strive to create our own spaces to pursue these development objectives. I see there's a hand up. Okay, there's two hands up. So let me start with you, Ms. Atlahan. Then after that, we can go to Ndebele.
Yes, I think I want to concur with what the person in the chat is saying, that we need to start creating our own spaces. And I think that is the best solution, that if you are not accepted in a room, create your own space. It doesn't have to be big, but at some point it will be big. So create your own space and start influencing the sphere that you're called to. If you're called to the sphere of technology, create a community of women that are part or that are advocates of technology, and see how you can influence the sphere that you're called to. You don't have to wait to be called to parliament. You don't have to wait to be called to to the UN. But if you are called to your own community, your own local hub, build your own local hub as a woman and start your own community. You might be surprised at how many women actually want to buy into your vision, how many women actually are willing to pay if you are willing to monetize that community. So we need to now not put ourselves in the box, because there are barriers that have been created for women to not thrive in this economy. But we need to think creatively as to how can we use, for example, technology to build communities. Could be an online platform, and then monetize that. And you might be surprised. You might be invited to a very big institution like the UN to come and present what you're doing. So start where you are, and who knows, you might go big. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you, Ms. Atleha, for that. Are you still there, Ndebele? Because I can see your hand is up.
Yes, I'm here. It was weird for a second, but I just wanted to say, in reiteration to what was said in the chat about women also needing to exercise greater agency in their own development, I would also like to point out, in the exercise of democracy in a lot of these African countries, when we talk about progress, a lot of us talk about progress in terms of just putting women in these places without actually knowing their positions on women's issues, such as GBV, even women's economic standing, such as child marriages, a lot of the things that are still being implemented and still are drawing women back in Africa today. Women in high places may not save us. The same thing is said about Black people in high places. Just because they are in the seat doesn't mean that they are for the causes that we need them to be for. So in terms of, especially for youth, in terms of exercising women's greater agency in their own development, it's also up to us to understand who we are pioneering in terms of the development, in terms of our politics, in terms of our economic systems. Who are we cheering on? Because if we just say, oh, she's a woman, and then we put her in that seat and we don't actually know what she's about, then it's kind of counterproductive. And that's kind of just what I wanted to add on to that topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndebele, for that contribution. Quickly going over to the chat for the last time. Louis said what Atlehang is saying is true, but the challenge lies on the implementation of these policies and programs. I believe this is a reiteration of what most people had already raised. So I had a last question here, of which I believe that most of the speakers and other people's comments they have addressed this. But should anyone have an addition to this, please do raise it. So the question was, what advice would you give to young women who aspire to be in leadership positions and how they can prepare themselves for these roles? So, going back to what our speakers had raised, Joey spoke of those internal forces, believing in yourself, and I believe that this advice would be very useful to women that aspire to be in these leadership positions, because like I said in the beginning, that it starts with yourself. It starts by you as a woman believing in yourself that you are capable of being a leader. And then the second one was to develop your skills. This was touched on by Joey and Sinate, that you should develop your skills. You should learn from other women, because you cannot say that you are a leader if you are not going to learn from other leaders as well. And then also, Senata spoke of building a support system. As she said, her various challenges that she had faced with her journey in leadership and how she overcame them. I had probed the question asking if there was any support system that she had, and she did mention that through that support system, she was able to overcome these barriers. So, having a support system as a woman aspiring to be in leadership is very critical. If there's anyone who wants to add something, you are free to do so in the chat box. There are two new comments in the chat box. I just want to quickly attend to them. Jabula says, "I personally believe that true women empowerment in a workplace will only happen when policies are backed by strong political will, budget allocation, and community level implementation." Yes, that is true. Glenna says, agreed, we should go beyond policy advocacy and take more ownership of our collective futures as a generation. We need to start where we are. I loved that point so much. And Level says, on the support system thingy, as a man who strongly believes in women's leadership and empowerment, I think we should. One thing we don't really talk about, even in progressive spaces, is how much invisible responsibility women continue to carry even as they step into leadership positions. Many women are leaders in boardrooms but still expected to lead at home too, emotionally, mentally, physically. Empowerment shouldn't mean giving women more work. It should also mean changing the systems that assume caregiving, emotional labor are a woman's duty by default. It's quite sad that it's mostly women that support women. As men, we need to show up better, not only as supporters, but as active participants in shifting those norms. Yeah, that is a powerful statement there at the end, that it shouldn't just be women supporting women, in leadership position. Men ought to also support women, because this is a collective thing. It's not just a woman's thing, it's a collective thing. We need a man that will step up to, support women in leadership and also be active participants in shifting these norms. It takes all of us, not just one gender or yes. So the last comment here by Sambia says, in my view, you have to create your own environment in common with the government to project your vision. So these are the comments that we had from the people in the chat box. Is there any other comment, any other question as we are about to wrap up this session? Do we have any question? If you have any question or comment, you are free to raise your hand. Okay, I see there's a hand raised up here. Paulo, can you please unmute yourself and say your comment or ask your question?
Thank you thank you, Jessica. I have any comment about this topic, right? But congratulations for how we can show your position for this topic. But I have any ideas, right? We can look for the Africa Union agenda or the program, all right? 2018, 2028 is describe the 7 point is very important for the human empowerment and leadership in Africa. Actually, majority lead for gender in Africa is a human. All right, Africa has 16% for African half. All right, the population in the world, African young population to represent 40%. Right, the AU student platform, all right, we can get the world information, the Africa Union agenda 2020, 2030, 2060, all right, we can get the 7 keys. The Africa Union student platform, we can get all of things. We can put pressure for our government local, all right, to implement it for all extraction for our society, principally for the humans, all right. I think so. We have a good success for our vision, for our preoccupation. We can kill the all humans, all the world ladies for Africa. I want to go for the political analyze. All right, we can look and Rwanda government, Botswana government, and other countries. All right, our Africa political leadership, we implemented the young concretely for human, all right, to occupy the good position and political leadership. This is a good example. This is the reality, all right, for this transition for new African contest. But we can put more pressure for our government local because the African human, oh my God, is a smart, is a very intelligent, all right. But this is my comment, all right. When the human leadership, please, we can put a lot of pressure for our government local because the leader African, the leader political, the leader Africa political, right? We have opportunity to give us. We can look for Africa Union, the African banking development. We have a lot of program. We can promote the human empowerment and leadership in our country and the world continent. All right. Thank you for your audience. Until next time.
Thank you very much, Zambia, for your contribution. Let me go over to the chat. This is the last one that we will be looking at. Sonata says, we need to stop believing that the only way to be recognized is by sleeping with men in higher positions. That culture is hurting us, not helping us. True leadership is not given in exchange for favors, it is earned through impact, integrity, and vision. Know your worth, build your skills, and protect your dignity. Sure, I absolutely agree with that. Unfortunately, this is the harsh reality for many women. But you know, honestly speaking, that is not helping us. It is hurting us because now there's that thing of Even within our societies, you'd find that even women, would actually advise a fellow woman that in order for you to get into a leadership position, you need to exchange favors. So it is very important to know your worth as a woman aspiring to go into leadership. It is very important to also protect your dignity. So, for the interest of time, we have come to the end of our session. Thank you very much for your contributions, your comments, on this topic. Thank you very much for your participation, because this is not just we're listening to just one person. It's about also engaging, hearing from different views, because we are learning. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Miss Atlehang, I will hand this over back to you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for such an informative session. I really learned a lot and gained some perspective on the practical solutions that we can do going forward as women. Without wasting any time, we are now moving over to our last session for the day. I am fully aware that we are behind on time. Just to introduce how the session 4 is going to work out, we will not have any breakaway rooms, but we will dive into straight conversation. And of course, Mr. Ntantla Faldeni will be leading us into this session 4. He'll be the moderator. And of course, the topic for session 4 is Africa's contribution to achieving the SDGs. Will Africa contribute to achieving the SDGs, and what is our role as student leaders? Thank you so much, and Ntantla, over to you.
Thank you so much, Atlehang. As my colleague has highlighted, that the session now that follows, which is our last session, is the debate. But as you've already mentioned, it will follow a more of a discussion orientated arrangement, taking into consideration the time. So without any further ado, I would like to quickly then introduce the participants, or rather the guests for this session. And the guests that I have here today is firstly Sinelisi.
Your son network
Jessica, you are. All right, thank you. You may.
Oh, okay. Yes. So as I was saying, so the first guest that we have is Sinelisi, and Sinelisi is the chairperson of the African Union Student Platform South Africa, particularly in the Parliament section. She's also a master's candidate in sociology at the University of the Free State. She's also a United Nations volunteer, a human rights ambassador, and a youth mentor. She champions inclusive development and transformative leadership. Following that, we also have Naledi Tebele, who is a final year sociology and psychology student at the University of Botswana. She serves as the health and wellness leader in the African Union Student Platform, which is in Botswana, championing youth involvement in health and wellness initiatives, passionate about African development and gender equality. She is also a PR and marketing officer at the Tairi Ya Sechaba, which is a nonprofit focused on education and women's empowerment. And lastly, we also have Shaubi Bashir Mukadem, who is a 200 level law student at Miriam Abacha America University of Niger. And with over 7 years in legal internship experience, he is a skilled mooter and debater, having led his university to multiple inter-school victories, including at the prestigious ACE International Moot, and currently preparing for the global JSAP Moot competition. He's also the president of the African Law Student Association in the Nigerian chapter. Sorry, I meant to say the University of Nigeria. So these are my guests today who are going to be helping in the facilitation of this debate as to whether, if not, we think that Africa will contribute a significant percentage to achieving the SDG, which is the Social Development Goals, and what is the role of student leaders now. So without any further ado, I think, as you mentioned at the Ham, that instead of having breakaway sessions, I think what I will do, I will have each of the guests to to share their perspective, if whether or not they believe that Africa will have a significant contribution in that regard. Either they support the notion or they are against it, and then after they've all have shared their perspectives, we'll then go to the comments, and then we'll see what our participants have to say, if whether or not they do support or they are against. So without any further ado, I would like to call Sanelisiwe Khumalo to just give us her input, whether or not, if she believes that this is something that is achievable, and if so, what are the steps, or how can this be achieved? And what is the role of us, the youth, in the attainment of such of these goals? Thank you so much. Is Sanelisiwe there? If she's not yet there, then I mean we can go to Naledi. Naledi, are you there? Colleagues, am I audible?
Yes, you are. And
Sanelisiwe is here now.
And Naledi.
Oh.
Am I audible? Sorry, my mic was not on.
Your mic is on, but we
Am I
can't
audible?
see you, Sanelisiwe. Yes, you are audible, Naledi.
Should I start?
Yes, you proceed.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Naledi Debele, and I am for the motion that Africa will contribute a significant percentage to achieving the SDGs. I want to make something clear before I start, is that Africa has already contributed a significant amount to the SDGs already. And the SDGs are a global partnership, and I think that there's a reason for that. It's not so much about will they contribute, it's about where can they contribute the most, in my perspective. And that's what I got from the statement. So to dive right in, I want us to look at SDG 17, which is Partnership for the Goals. So we have a lot of goals in the Sustainable Development Goals: no poverty, clean energy, good education, gender equity. A lot of these goals require partnership and collaboration, especially within the African continent, which is something that we have struggled with a lot post-colonially, sorry. We've struggled with the idea of partnering with other African countries to improve trade, to improve transportation, to improve infrastructure, health, technology, innovation, things like that. And the idea is that because of the shift that we were experiencing after colonialism, a lot of African countries wanted to experience independence, and that also meant an individualistic perspective of how they were going to govern their countries. With this kind of came the, how do I say, setback of things that we could have achieved had we collaborated sooner. And so I believe that we've made significant progress in collaborating. I would like to take you through, like one of the speakers said earlier, we have free trade agreements, platforms like the African Union student platforms where different youths from different African countries can come and collaborate and come and talk and discuss and bring awareness to these issues. These are the significant progresses that Africa has made. Engagement platforms, even with youth summits for the SDGs, where African countries can kind of come together and figure out how they're going to collaborate, is something that I've seen a lot within the past couple of years, even in my own country. There have been collaborative efforts, especially in terms of decreasing the red tape around traveling. I know that Botswana has been making significant progress in allowing people to go in and out of the country between borders like Namibia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. And if you look at Europe, the ways in which they can travel in between countries so easily has improved their economic standing in the world, where people can spend in different countries, where people can take a train ride from one country to another, and it not significantly hinder them economically, or it not be such a huge issue in terms of how they're going to be able to trade, in terms of how they're going to be able to experience tourism, in terms of how they're going to be able to experience education even. Can you imagine if we had less of red tape around traveling, what education could look like, what our infrastructures could look like, and trade could look like? So I think in terms of what Africa can contribute, I think we've made some significant progress already, but I think that there's a lot of potential for us to make more in terms of that. And then moving on, another SDG that I would like us to focus on is our affordable and clean energy. So Africa uses more renewable energy than any other region in the world, with a significant portion of its energy consumption, around 70%, coming mostly from renewable sources. So this is sun energy, wind energy, and water energy. These are not only renewable sources, but they're affordable, making that issue that we were talking about earlier with things like Wi-Fi, with things like electricity, be less of a problem if we can sort of invest more in affordable and clean energy. And because Africa has a lot of renewable resources at its grip, I think that this is a great potential for us to be able to contribute to the SDGs significantly. In my own country, in Botswana, the president has discussed using the country's natural solar and wind resources to increase both accessibility to power and water across the country, and also introduce bilateral agreements of clean energy within the continent. We have platforms like the Southern African Power Pool, the SAPP, which allows for electricity trade between Southern African countries. And this is a regional integration that supports energy security, cost reduction, and resilience to supply shocks. So you might think that in the beginning, investing in renewable energy for water and electricity to make it more accessible might be a little bit more expensive. But like I was talking about earlier with collaboration efforts, I think it's a very big possibility that we'll be able to provide more electricity across Africa as a continent and not just in our individual countries. So yeah, those are the two SDGs. But just for bonuses, I'd like to point out that we've made significant progress in our SDGs for education and gender equity. As you guys know, Namibia has introduced their first woman president. That was amazing. And things like that are kind of showing the progression that Africa is making. So for me, it's not really whether they will or they will not contribute a significant percentage. It's more so in which areas do we have the most potential to contribute. That's my contribution for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Very insightful. And indeed, the potent consideration is where can we double down on where we can find advantages, and how can we then leverage that to also facilitate and also encompass the aspirations or the contributions from the youth, because a number of these sustainable development goals are also interlinked with the fourth industrial revolution, the technology, so all of these have an interplay in between them. So yeah, I really appreciate those comments and your stance on that particular topic. So now I think I will go to our second speaker. So if maybe is Sinelisi were there yet? One second, guess.
No, I do recall that she did join in, but I assume that she's having network issues. I'll just check on her. Thank you.
Okay, I think in the meantime we can have Mukadem, who can at least share his perspective as to his stance on this particular matter. Thank you. Is Mukadem there?
Sanelisi, who just joined. I think she's still trying to join. She just joined.
Hello, can you hear?
Sorry?
Can you hear me? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible now.
Okay, so can I proceed before the next speaker come in?
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you so much. Let me get my camera on. Okay. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. It's already afternoon here. We have a little bit of time difference. Distinguished colleagues, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today we ask ourselves a question. Will Africa contribute a significant percentage towards achieving the sustainable development goals, and what is the role of its student leaders? And I think I will be siding with what my previous learned speaker mentioned, that it's not about whether Africa will contribute, but it's about what will Africa or how will Africa contribute. My answer is unequivocally yes. Africa will not only contribute, it will lead. And its student leaders are the architects upon which this contribution rests. According to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Report 2023, only 12% of the global SDG targets are currently on track. So this global shortfall demands urgent action from every continent, every nation, and every generation. In this global endeavor, Africa's role is indispensable, not as a passive beneficiary, but as an active contributor and an innovative powerhouse. With its abundant natural resources, a youthful population, and a bold pan-continental agenda, Africa has both the capacity and urgency to drive global progress. Yet achieving this vision rests upon one crucial force, that is, the student leaders are usually the youthful influencers, because the population we currently have in Africa and the students as well, we can see that the youth constitutes almost 85% of the students we have. So when student leadership policies, when student leadership directions, that will lead the youth into supporting the SDG. Let's look at my point number one, Africa and the SDG, the context and opportunity. Today, Africa stands at the cross of possibilities and challenges. According to the African Union Agenda 2063, Africa's demographic dividend is one of its greatest strengths. Roughly 60% of Africa's population is under 25 years old, making it the youngest continent in the world. Roughly, we have 60% of youths that is under 25 years old. This demographic reality positions Africa as a global powerhouse for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, reminds us that Africa holds roughly 30% of the world's mineral reserves, and we can see that clearly. We can see Nigeria is rich in crude oil, gold from Niger, Mali, the uranium, Burkina Faso have gold, and all that. We can see roughly Africa constitutes of 30% of the world's mineral reserves, making it vital for achieving SDG number 7, achieve affordable and clean energy. So when Africa holds 30% of mineral reserves, whether it is clear that Africa is instrumental to achieving SDG number 7, that is affordable and clean energy, SDG 9, industry and innovation and infrastructure, and SDG 12, responsible consumption and production. Abundant renewable resources, that is solar, wind, hydropower. We can see that Africa, we have one of the hottest sun powers. We have the deserts in Morocco, the North Africa, and even in South Africa, like in states in Nigeria, like Yobe State and other, we can see the temperature of the sun is very high, which contribute to solar, wind, and hydropower, although there have been some shifts in the solar energy, which before solar is just based on the temperature of the sun, but now the new solar that is tried to be made is to try to extract just the light from the sun, not the temperature, so that solar can adapt to situations where the sun will not be hot, like in the rainy season and in cold weather and stuff like that, making it an ideal player in SDG 13 climate action. So moreover, with the launch of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, AfCTA, projected to increase intra-African trade by 52% by this year, 2025, the continent can drive economic growth that advances SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, and SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. And I think the best solution for Africa to advance this SDG is if youths are included into policies. And what the new president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, has done, he has done a quite great job. That is the free visa movement. No visa should be lifted from every movement across Africa, just as how in Europe it has been made, because this issue of visa is just restricting Africans. There are a lot of, like Niger and Nigeria, the distance between, when you come to the border, you see a house will be lying on the border between Niger and Africa. The distance is not even up to 10 kilometers, but this free movement need to be implemented honestly through the African Union. We think the African Union can make this the free movement, the free visa, and this trade, and we need to understand that countries need to support African trades by dropping tariffs. That is, tariffs don't need to be implemented on African goods, and every other goods coming abroad should face the issue of these tariffs, so that Africans will be recommended, or Africans will have that feeling to patronize local goods made in Africa. Then through its unique position and resources, Africa is not just to contribute, but to lead the global efforts towards achieving the SDG. But in every movement, there is challenges. What is the challenges that are facing the Africa towards achieving these sustainable development goals? Okay. However, this is tempered by present challenges. According to the 2023 UN SDG report, African nations face setback due to weak institutional frameworks. We have a very weak institutional frameworks, and honestly, our frameworks need to be strengthened. Our governments need to know that they are not in that place for play. They are not in that place for fancy. Let the serious work be done. The climate vulnerability, that is, our climate is very vulnerable, and it has to do with the global warming, the refuse dumping, and all that. Honestly, there are some countries that even have this pact that refugees and dumps will be dumped in their country. So this needs to be stopped. Burning of desertification, stuff like desertification, cutting of trees, illegal burning of things that will add smoke to the atmosphere need to be stopped. Then we face challenges through political instability. Honestly, the political space in Africa is just not as safe as it ought to be. The politicians need to understand that they are working together towards achieving a better Africa for all, not as enemies. Because what we see now in Africa is just like politics has turned into a war. It's a do or die affair. Like if a president starts start a policy which is a good policy, his successor when he comes into office will not continue that with that policy, not because he knows, not because he doesn't know that that policy is a good policy, but because this is my enemy that started this policy, I'm not continuing it. So we need to drop that mentality. We need to support initiatives that we know can bring change. And even the opposition parties today, opposition parties are just criticizing when a person in the position of power brings a policy that is good, the opposition parties will just criticize it based on it's not us that brought it, it seems, so we'll not allow him to do anything good. So we need to reform the political space in Africa, gaps in education and infrastructure. With this, I will leave this section in the words of the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Prof. Amina J. Mohammed. Achieving SDG is not a luxury for Africa, it is a necessity, and the future depends on the concrete action we mobilize today, especially our youth. So also the other part of the discussion, that is the role of student leaders, which I call them the heartbeat of development. The role of African student leaders goes beyond traditional student activism. In the era of SDG and the Agenda 2063, student leaders must evolve into awareness creators and educators. According to UNESCO Education for Sustainable Development Framework 2020, embedding its sustainability within education is critical for achieving the SDG for quality education. Student leaders must harness power platforms, seminars, webinars, and digital spaces to educate communities about sustainable practices and policies. Policy advocates and influencers. Professor Jeffrey Sachs of the Earth Institute, Columbia University, argues that student activism catalyzes institutional change, making the voice of the youth in the engine that reshapes policies and governance for sustainable development. Then there are innovators and social entrepreneurs. The African Union Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa, STISA 2024, highlights the role of students and researchers in creating sustainable technology from mobile health platforms addressing SDG 3 good health to climate-friendly innovations tackling SDG 13 climate action. African students have demonstrated resilience and ingenuity, ethics, accountability, and good governance advocates, bridging the gap between academia, government, and society, shaping Pan-African solutions. These are things that these are the role student leaders ought to take in shaping and ensuring the Agenda 2063 is achievable. Why this moment matters? This moment, we are at a critical moment, as Professor Bangani Mayosi, former Dean of Health Sciences at the University of Cape Town, once stated, the future of Africa rests in the hands of its youth, and its student leaders must rise as a moral and intellectual vanguard to a prosperous, sustainable continent. With the climate crisis accelerating, poverty deepening due to global economic shifts, and technology reshaping the future of work, this generation of African student leaders is uniquely positioned and uniquely called to take the reins and lead the new era of the SDGs. And this issue of poverty have been here because our leaders fail to value our currency. Our currency is devalued. We fail to make trades. We fail to make trades in our currency. We fail to understand the value of our currency. Today, the Japa syndrome is happening because people feel they are more safe abroad than safe at home. How you convert like cedis, naira into dollars and all that. So you see the currency, this thing is making life hard for Nigerians. That is because we don't produce there's a minimum number of production in Africa. So most of these things are imported from abroad. And that is why at the beginning of this, I made mention of production need to be enhanced in Africa. And the presidents need to understand that they need to support these African producers by dropping tariffs from African countries and reducing taxes to African producers and implementing much more number of tariffs on any good that is coming abroad, that is coming overseas from Europe, America, or Asia, or anywhere. So since we are not producing, when these goods are imported from across the seas, the conversion rate to our currency is what is making the poverty more stiffening is what is making people more poor, because what you are purchasing today at 1 naira has tripled to be 5 or 10 naira, and the purchasing power, salary has not been increased, and a lot of things. So to conclude, distinguished colleagues, Africa can and will make a significant contribution towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Its structural endowment and demographic dividend make it uniquely positioned to do so, but this potential will only be fully unleashed if we recognize and invest in the role of student leaders, those who embody the knowledge, ethics, and passion for necessary transformative things. From the words of Professor Amina J. Mohammed, it is upon the shoulders of the African youth, especially student leaders, that the future of sustainable development rests. From the African Union Agenda 2063 to the United Nations SDG framework, the blueprint is clear. The urgency is now, and the agents of change, they are you and me, the student leaders of this era. Let us rise to this call, and in doing so, we do not merely secure a place for Africa in achieving the SDG, we redefine Africa as the engine of global sustainability, equity, and resilience. Thank you so much. I will live with this.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Before I introduce Saneli Siwe, I'd like to take Naledi's hand. I'm not sure if it's a question based to our current speaker.
Yes, it is. It's not so much of a question, but more of an addition to what he was talking about with renewable energy. I think in addition to Africa being instrumental in achieving clean energy, is something that we have to. It slipped my mind. Okay, can I circle back in a few minutes?
Okay, you may. Our facilitator has currently left the room, but he will be back. Saneli Siwe, are you in the room? If you are, please do unmute, and we would like to hear your contribution. Is Saneli Siwe in the room? No, she's not. I will take your hand, Louise.
Okay, I wanted just to contribute on what the panelists are from saying. Actually, Africa contribute a lot to the achievement of SDGs. I can just give you an example. Today, the SDG 13, we have got two big forests in the world that are contributing the most to climate reduction or mitigation. And one of those forests, it is the equatorial forest in DRC. So it is contributing a lot in terms of greenhouses reduction. We are talking about renewable energy. We have many natural resources that can help today the world to have this what we call electric vehicle, electric batteries, and those resources are coming from Africa. So in that way, Africa is contributing a lot to the achievement of the SDG 13 by mitigating the climate change. I think that is what Tebele wanted to say. So I also captured that one, that practically we are contributing a lot, because we can't talk today about renewable energy, climate mitigation or adaptation without talking about resources in Africa, even the forests that we have in Africa. That's why we have nowadays conflict between the South and the North continent, because there is that discussion saying that those big countries, Western countries, are the one polluting the most, and Africa we are feeling those consequences, although we don't have those big companies, big polluters. So to make it brief, that is what I wanted to contribute, that Africa is contributing a lot based on that example. And there are several examples of the SDGs in which Africa is also making contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that contribution. Just to give you a heads up, Mr. Ntantla, so we have lost Sanelisiwe on the call. However, I will give Ms. Ndebele an opportunity to contribute or ask a question, and then we will
Yeah, j'ai fini, je viens de
I
finir de
know that
parler.
if that is Ms. Lewis, please kindly mute it. I think Ms. Anelisiwe is trying to join in. However, while we admitting her, you may continue to contribute, Ms. Nandidi.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity to contribute. I definitely agree with what Lewis said in terms of Africa being one of the most mineral-rich continents in the world. And something that I wanted to add on earlier is that in addition to Africa being instrumental in achieving clean and renewable energy, is that we shouldn't in terms of how our cultures prioritize sustainability and environmentalism. So in achieving clean energy, it's not so much only about the technology, but how we are going to preserve the earth while we develop this technology. I think that is something that the West has failed at in terms of taking a cue from the Native Americans, taking a cue from pre-colonialist technology, pre-industrial revolution technology in terms of how we can remain sustainable, because a lot of these policies that we've developed in terms of trying to become more sustainable have been a direct result of us not being sustainable to begin with. So I think in terms of our progress in achieving not only affordable but clean energy, we should be able to take a route from the current tribes that are living in Africa that still practice those pre-colonialist traditions to this day. A tribe that Botswana has are called the San people. They have very good environmentalist approaches in terms of how they use the earth to feed and power their daily activities. And I think in developing that technology, it would be good to take some information from those tribes and take some information from African roots and not just stick to the European approach of achieving clean and sustainable resources. And that's what I wanted to add. And I would like to just add that I appreciate Lewis's contribution. That was very insightful for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that Ms. Sanelisiwe is in the room. So Ms. Sanelisiwe, the floor is open for you. Ms. Sanelisiwe, are you there? You are muted, just in case you're talking. Okay, I think Ms. Sanelisiwe is experiencing network problems. However, it's been a very insightful day. I believe that we can close this session now with your permission, Mr. Ntantla. We have went ahead of time. We are now sitting at 12:30, and this session was supposed to end at 12:15. I'd like to, first of all, thank you for being here and for joining us from morning until now and engaging in very critical conversations about shaping the future of Africa as we are the next leaders of Africa. And in terms of closing, I'd like to, not sure if Mr. Preston Simbaya is in the room. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Preston Simbaya just to say something, as he's the founding president of AUSP, and to say something and also lead us to just closing off this session of our first Pan-African Student Summit in South Africa. And I hope that we will host you again next year. Maybe it's going to be in person, but who knows? I'm really grateful for your time, for your commitment to being part of this summit, and for supporting the South African executive team. I'll now hand over to you, Mr. Preston Simbaya. If you have a few words that you want to say, I'll give you 3 minutes just to say thank you and also to close off this session for the first Pan-African Summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. He said, pronunciations will get there one day. Yeah, I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to thank you, South African AUSP chapter, for this recommendable job that you are doing to ensure that our chapter is active and engaging our youths momentarily, so that we can share the knowledge and the insights of things that are going on in our continent and how best we can resolve some of our challenges. We also want to give thanks to our speakers that were invited and were called upon. This is a spirit that we need, that we are, while we're still alive, we pour out the knowledge that we have acquired so that we can share information, because all of us, I think, are acquiring different information from various places. And when we meet on such a platform, we share our knowledge and our experience. And for that, we just want to say thank you very much to our speakers. We also want to thank you, our members that attended this first Pan-African Student Summit that has been hosted by AUSP South African chapter. And to other leaders that are present in the AUSP, I acknowledge the Women Commissioner, she should be here, and other leaders in the AUSP. I want to say thank you and sincerely gratitude to you. I must have addressed this summit in the opening, but unfortunately, like the challenges we are facing of power and all these, and these are the solutions we need. We woke up, there was no power the whole night, and woke up, the laptop, the phone was down, and I had to rush to the office just to get some power. And the time I was joining, the summit had already started. And nevertheless, I think, Madam, in few minutes, I think 2 or 3 minutes, I just wanted to share a few insights, just key takeaways from this summit, especially on the theme, which is Africa's Next Generation, Pan-African Student Leadership for Sustainable Tomorrow. And in my own understanding, just breaking it down, this motion to say, the key words that we must understand: the next generation, which is the generation that will come after ours. How are we preparing as youths of today for the generation that will come tomorrow? I've always often emphasized to say, today we are able to discuss the issues that Africa has faced from the historical point of view, and sometimes we question the decisions that were made by our forefathers, our ancestors, our leaders then in the past. And these are the same questions that the generation that will come after us will ask. What did we do about the situation that we are facing in this continent? It will be us now that will be answerable to the next generation. So these are some of the things that we must prepare ourselves. And if we are not careful, we will still be answerable to the questions that we are answering and asking today our leaders. The Pan-Africanism, maybe some of us, it's something that we just say, maybe Pan-Africanism. In my own understanding, for me, it's the loyalty, the love, the determination, the uncompromised characters that we need to possess as Africans, the Ubuntu, who we are as African, the identity that wherever I am, I shall be identified as an African, the pride that you have in being an African, whether you're from Rwanda, whether you're from Zimbabwe, whether you're from South Africa, Botswana. When we meet, we embrace each other with that oneness of Africanism.
And when you talk about students, it's a constant learning. And we are talking about our education system. What education system are we going to implement that will be able to address the issues that our continent is facing? I think like the previous speaker was trying to mention on the aspect of dependence on foreign technology, dependence on everything is foreign. We need to establish systems that will stand for a test of time as an African system, such that even when the imperialists will decide to say, I'm taking away my technology, I'm taking away my this, I'm taking away this, we shall still be able to stand as Africans. And that is our role and our core as students. It's not just to copy and paste. It's not just about translating what has already been written, but it's just about inventing things that have never existed that will work for the good cause of Africa. And leadership is the responsibility and the influence that we have and that we need to possess today. How are we using the responsibilities and the positions that we've been given, the role that we have assumed in our universities, in our organizations, and in everything and in every opportunity that we are given? Because then it will speak when we are long gone. Today we can proudly speak to say, like in the words of Professor Pierre Lumumba, to say sanity must return in Africa. And we're able to say proudly, say we can have examples of Burkina Faso to really bring tremendous work, and we are able to pick up. We need more stories, not just stories, but we need actions as Africans, because yesterday I was listening to BBC, should be yesterday or the day before yesterday, and they were interviewing the finance minister for Zimbabwe, and they were talking about the issue of securing an IMF deal. And it breaks my heart, because look at the richness that Zimbabwe has, the mineral resource, the diamond, the gold. Why should we be begging for financial assistance from these institutions when wireless, the richness and all the mineral resources that we have is ours? It breaks my heart. You see, and sustainability is coming up with ideas that will stand for a test of time. Continuity, the passing on of this knowledge and skill. This is the interpretation of this theme, and it's so rich, it's so impactful that if we were to take it in its contextual and interpret it, believe you me, it will bring a transformation that will change Africa for generations and generations to come. In closing, allow me also to emphasize to say, Africa must adopt the national development plans that will guarantee continuity of development in our countries and in our continent. Like one speaker said, most often because of democracy and politics, when the next predecessor comes, they tend to abolish the plans that the other one had because it's their enemy. But when we come up with national development plans, which are strategic, regardless of whichever government will come or whichever political party will come, they should be able to continue on the same development plan. Like we have the Agenda 2063, the Agenda 2030, and this is what we need. If we say infrastructure development, industrialization, public investment and empowerment, education system that will reform, the way that we think and all that, and one thing is there is nothing like, one size fits all. Africa is diverse in our geographical location, in our environment, in our mineral composition, culture diversification, and our political landscape. So we must be able to embrace that and learn to live in unity and oneness. And as we, youths, today my beg and plea as I'm closing is that we must rise above the political boundaries and put the interest of our nations and continents first. Our loyalty must be to our motherland, and we have acquired these necessary skills and knowledge and highest levels of education, and we must never forget to go back and take back our loyalty and our allegiance. And for Africa to have a next liberated generation, it begins with us, it begins with you, it begins with me today. With these few words, my fellow African youths, my fellow Pan-Africans, we can achieve with unity and purpose, we can achieve and we can change and transform our continent to a continent that will be able to stand a test of time. I thank you very much, and let's continue on the same trajectory as African youths bring the transformation that we need. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And colleagues, that is it. That is it. Thank you so much for joining in. We will host you again in 2026. But please do follow our social media pages. We are available on LinkedIn. We are also available on Instagram. So please do tag us, follow us, and receive more updates. In addition, we also have a WhatsApp channel. So I think in terms of when we do send out the evaluation form, email address, please do fill it in. We'd like to hear your feedback as to how our summit went, and we'd like to hear your opinions on how we can improve your experience as you are participating in this summit. Hopefully next year we'll see in person, but for now we will be virtually. Thank you so much, and please do keep in touch, and thank you very much again for attending this summit. We appreciate it. I will now leave the room, and you're most welcome to do so. Thank you so much.